No, unless you're in a competition, pulling for a record in some whatever league. No. If you're in the gym and your goal is to get bigger back, no. Do not do that, please. It's literally the same thing as me coming over here like a dick and being like, what is up? It's your boy Johnny SHREVE, IFBB Pro, Mr. Tell Like It Is. Today, guys, I'm gonna teach you guys how to do a proper conventional deadlift, and I'm gonna show you guys how to put it into your program to build muscle and what those reps and sets should look like. Let's get after it. All right, let's go over technique first. So let's talk about feet placement, width, hand placement. Placement? What the where to put your damn hands? And then bracing. Basically, making sure your core is engaged and your torso is completely and utterly stiff like a board, so there's no breaking in the back. Okay, so number one, when it comes to, I think it does a gazillion times I have, and every time I do this, I've said this a gazillion times, but who cares? A gazillion and one. If you want to, for fun, in the comfort of your own home, just do a circle. Just spin around in a circle, and then just relax, move around a bit. And I want you to just jump in the air. I want you to jump in there like you normally would, turn, touch something, maybe touch the ceiling if you can. Just jump up, and then land. Where you land is gonna be probably around where your feet should be in terms of like width. And this isn't like set in stone, but here's why. When you jump and not thinking about it, your hips are aligned naturally. And if you think about doing a jump, it's similar to the exact same thing you'll be doing when doing a deadlift. So landing naturally is where your feet should be, right? So if you have this weird, awkward, big stance before, and you're like, oh man, my feet were so wide before, or maybe, you know, I don't know. And you did my little test and you're like, oh, that makes sense. There's your feet, there's the foot placement. So for me, my feet are gonna be around this width for me. Now, we're gonna walk up to the bar. Where's the bar gonna go? There's a bunch of things you've heard all the time. I've even coached, have it right on your shin. Easy for everybody because not everyone's shaped the same, is to think about like the shoelaces. Where your shoelaces are, where the bar is. That's where we wanna be. All right, now we're there. We also we wanna avoid pulling the bar to us and stuff. We wanna avoid, you know, doing all this and whatever. You know, if you're advanced and you wanna do some extra shit, you go right ahead. But for those who wanna learn how to do this from scratch, we're gonna walk up to the bar. Our landmarks are basically gonna be right over our shoelace. And then there, we're in our stance, we're standing, we're good, we feel natural. Now from here, it's getting down and grabbing this bar, and that's where a lot of mistakes happen. So now we know where to stand, we're gonna walk up to the bar. Our feet are gonna be, you know, where they were when we did a little jump test. And then the bar is gonna be over top of our shoelace, and then getting down to get this bar. Here are common mistakes that happen. Right away, people do this. And the bar rolls forward. How many people have done that before? Raise your hand. You've done it. Good. Awesome for being honest. Now, we're not gonna do that because when it comes to deadlifting, there's not much shin moving. For some there is. Some are going to have different postures because of how long their shin bone is, how long their femur is, and how long their torso is. So you might get a little bit of knee over toe, but for the most part, you're not getting a ton of knee flexion forward when you're doing deadlifts. Now we figure that out. How do we get ourselves down to get this bar without pushing the bar forward? Well, we're gonna take my cue like you're going to the washroom and it's gross. If somebody put a barbell in your stall for some reason, and you're like, convenient, because I gotta take a doo-doo. So you're like, I could do the same thing at once. So I'm gonna hinge my butt back like this. You already put the nest or that, you know, the toilet thing on there that they have. It's already there. And you're like, all right, let's go. I don't wanna touch the walls. Oh, and you do this. See what happened? I put my butt back. Everybody knows how to do this. Everyone has done this before. Unless you're one of those like really like stuck up, rich ass mugs who's never been in a nasty washroom before. Maybe you're not stuck up either. You're not stuck up. Maybe you've never ever seen a dirty washroom before. You're the minority. Just letting you know, because we all have. We've all been there before and slipped. God, you feel gross after. Anyway, so we're pushing our butt back. And while we're pushing our butt back, we're gonna let our hands stay on our thighs. On like basically pushing on our thighs. And that little cue there is gonna keep you engaging your lats. Naturally, just push your hands on your thighs and bend down and keep them kind of, not hard, but just enough to run, just enough to press your thighs all the way down. Over your knees and down your shins, right to that cold bar. right? It's getting sexy with it. That's what we're gonna do. Butt's gonna go back. We're in the washroom, gross, gross, gross. Please don't touch the toilet, please don't touch the toilet. And we're gonna grab as close to our shins as possible. You know why? Because the shortest distance from A to B is a straight line, all right? The straight line, right, A to B is this. Where my hands touch the bar, that's A to B. Boom, A to B, straight line. What happens if I go here? That's a longer distance for me to go down to touch. And we're doing deadlifts, not snatches. So if you're one of those people who are out here, you've done yourself no justice. You just made it harder for you to reach down and get the bar, because the further I have to go, the more I gotta do this, because then we're in a snatch, and I look great for a snatch actually right now. If I was snatching, I look sick. One thing is I snatched mine back in half, tried that. Anyway, so we're down. We have the bar. We're going to wrap our hands around the bar. We're not gonna do this whole thing where we're gonna be like kind of like this and everything else is tight and then our fingers are kind of like this. It's like gripping the barbell, having your knuckles kind of facing down, because when you start to rise or any kind of pressure is coming to lift this thing, it needs to be pulling you down this way, not like this. You've now shortened it again. Here, you're trying to punch the ground. There's your hands. Ah. All right, now that we grip the bar right now, my knuckles are facing the ground and I look like a scared ass cat. We're gonna fix this. We're going to now pretend we're pooping again. Kind of sit back or butt back a bit. Now, while we do that and straighten our back out, two things are happening. I'm pushing my butt back this way, straighten it out. And then I'm raising my chest up a bit. And while I'm doing that, I'm pretending somebody's tickling my armpits. That same dude that punches you in the stomach, he's actually here today. Your same buddy who just suckers you in the stomach is also here to tickle your armpits and suck you in the stomach at the same time while we're doing deadlifts. What'd you think about that? He's gonna tickle your armpits, you're like, don't tickle my armpits. Yoink, there you go. And then he's gonna punch your stomach as well too, so you're gonna be like, no. And then while doing that, your butt's gonna be out here, here, here. And I'm in a great position, but I don't wanna get up yet. I wanna feel the ground, my toes and my heels. Now, if you look at my posture right now, big point is we wanna make sure that our shoulders are higher than our butt. A lot of times we're like this, or I don't know, I can't do that. I'm not gonna try. Just make sure your shoulders are higher than your butt. So here, I'm locked in, here, 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 butt's out, here I am. Now from here, I'm a little on my toes, I'm gonna rock back a bit, so my toes are still on the ground, my heels, I feel my heels, I'm feeling that middle part of my body. From there, lats engaged, I'm engaging my core, and then I'm pulling up and driving hips forward. Not hyperextending. On the way down, the same way it came up. Butt's gonna go back to that nasty ass toilet. Lats are gonna be engaged like we're trying to pull the bar over our thighs. And then lowering it with our legs to the floor. Not this. No. No. No, unless you're in a competition, pulling for a record in some whatever league. No. If you're in the gym and your goal is to get bigger back, no. Do not do that, please. It's literally the same thing as me coming over here like a dick and being like, don't do that. So let's do this again. Walking up to the bar where my feet are natural. When I jumped, the bar is gonna be over my shoelace. I'm gonna shoulders back from the ears. I'm gonna pretend there's a nasty toilet in the back. I'm gonna let my hands sit on my thighs. I'm gonna push my butt back. And then I'm gonna grab the bar close to my shins. Now, after we've grabbed the bar, engaged our lats, chest is up, sitting back a bit, and pulling up, tight core pulls, hips go through. On the way back down, you're gonna go back down this fast. Tighten the core again. That's it. If you can't do a rep like that with the weight you're using, you can't control it and you shouldn't be doing it, all right? So that's how you do it. Now, a couple of things. Let's talk about like how this thing works for a different body. Not everybody's gonna have the same body positioning as me. I just so happen to be gifted. I just said gifted, I'm not gifted anything. I was blessed to have the proportions I do that makes me a very natural hinging person. So I look quite natural when I squat and quite natural when I deadlift. Why are you doing that, right? So for me, it's easy. For some people, it might be a little different because they might have longer torso, shorter torso, longer femur, shins. What happens is their knee might go over more than most. They might have to be a little higher in their back. What we want to address here to make sure everyone doesn't think they have to look like me is that what we're trying to do is make sure the bar pathway stays completely on its path without being manipulated off its path. Gravity in the bar pathway, the line of tension, of force is going up and down. As long as your chest, shoulders or whatever stay over your back is straight, not bent. And when the butt goes up, the bar goes up, you're fine wherever the hell you're at. If your knees are like this, or you're sitting back like this, it's gonna be some reason because of how your body positioning is. The point of this is to make sure that however you are, it doesn't matter. What matters is to make sure that bar comes up straight. So for me, it's easy for me to do this and the weight to come up straight. For some, they might be a little bit more like this and sit back more, but look, that's still fine. It might change because of how their bodies are structured. As long as we are from floor to core, butts back, chest is higher than the butt, lats are engaged, core is engaged, you're pulling through, you're fine. Now, how does this look in your training plan? And why do people put this as a back exercise? Here, I just talked to you, Eric, about this earlier, and it's like this. People say,
oh man, deadlift is the best thing for back.
And I'm like, why? Like, it's fine it's completely fine. Because I do agree, it does help. But why would it be good for back?
Well, because when you lift it, you gotta hold it.
Okay, cool, yeah. Again, we're talking about gravity, and I'll just cut the chase so you're not, I'm sorry, I'm being a little condescending. I am. For those couple people out there who want to be like, you don't know what you're talking about. Who cares? Fun. Anyway, let's just go over gravity again. Here's our straight line. If I lift this thing up, I'm gonna lift up a little bit because I don't want to be a dick about it, but if I do this, it's gonna go straight down. Which means the only way for this to be challenged is by being lifted straight up. If I do this, it ain't that heavy, right? If I did a deadlift lying on my back, it wouldn't be that heavy, right? Because the only way for make this work is by it going up. So what's being challenged in your back? Well, yes, for sure, 100%, it does challenge your back, but why? Well, there's a couple things we don't talk about. People say most of the time, they'll say static hold or isometric hold. There's a word we don't use much, people don't use it hardly anymore, but an isotonic movement or contraction is basically being static. Easy way to say that. But there's the isotonic portion of the lift, right? When we are doing deadlifts, the reason why it's pretty good for your back is not because you're holding the weight, because right here, what's being challenged other than your traps? When I have the weight right like this, what's being challenged right now? Other than my traps, that's if I even do this. Nothing is. What's being challenged is when I'm like this, because if I let go of my lats and my traps, rhomboids, rear delts, this happens. And every time I go lower to the ground, I'm being challenged at a different range. I'm being challenged, right? The reason why it's a pretty good back exercise is because I'm being challenged for the majority of the lift. My scaps are being challenged to be retracted the entire time. I have to engage my lats, depression, and basically I'm doing shoulder depression. I'm doing shoulder extension, shoulder depression, while my legs are doing this. Yoink, yoink, yoink. All the muscles that need to be in place to make sure that my back doesn't roll is statically being contracted the entire time. So here's how you make this actually good for your back. Most of the time when I see people have deadlifts in their plan, they're going after some number and they're also trying to get big. And that same person isn't doing any kind of lifts or any kind of powerlifting meets or anything. So like, what are you doing? So here's how this thing is a better exercise for back, how you make it that way. You treat it with hypertrophy reps. What does that look like? Here's what you look like when you do a set. Remember, if we're trying to build muscle, we want to make sure it stays under a load for a long period of time. Sets, reps, and weight. Sets times reps times weight. We want that. So if I do a 5x5 with a lot of weight, great. But if I do maybe 70, 80% of that weight for a set of like 15 with control, under control, then for that entire rep, my entire torso that's being challenged to do this, to stay this way for say 30, 40 seconds holding weight is probably gonna make your back grow that much better or optimal because it's doing it for a longer period of time. So here's what your rep looks like. I'm not saying do this and do like a 3-second negative. I'm not saying that. You wanna add a weight that you can do a rep like this. I'm gonna do 10 to 15 reps. That's how your set should look. Do your reps in sets like that, and then adding a weight that's gonna challenge you more and more and more, but you can still do the high end of those reps. I can promise you, the next time you do deadlifts, and you do it just like that, I don't care if you're doing 5x5s before, you're gonna be like, what the heck was that, Johnny? You blew my mind. I almost died yesterday and saw the deadlifting gods and they said, we accept you, but you need to go back, continue to build muscle. But you're gonna feel a nasty ass pump from being like this, holding that weight, great form, tension sitting there like, holy jeez, Johnny wasn't lying. Boom, and you get up and you're like, damn, I didn't even remember working last, but I feel swole as shit. So, take those cues, put this exercise in your back day. Do pulls first. Do like a high row first, or a pull up, or a pull down. Why? For me, it's one of those great exercises that are gonna stretch you out, but get you fully active in your torso, because that's what you want to be easily engaged when you start doing deads. I'm not saying it's gonna tire you out, because again, you're not doing deadlifts and doing this all the way down. You just need it active enough and fresh and already warm. And then you're gonna take your sets 10 to 15 reps with like a controlled 2-second negative. And you're only gonna use weight that allows you to do that. I'm not saying you're not gonna use weight that's gonna challenge you at all. I'm saying you need to be fighting to get that weight off the ground for at least 2 reps and between 10 to 15 reps. Those last 2 reps you do should be fighting to get the weight up. I'm not saying you can't get it up. I want you to fight it up, but you gotta be fighting it for a few. Like you gotta fight it, good form, again, damn, yeah, good. If I did 3 more reps, I'm done. Like that. You can do that on your back day. 3 hard sets. That's it. And I promise you, you're gonna thank me. You're gonna thank me. That's all you are. I know you guys. You're gonna thank me. I've already taken it. I'm already saying you're welcome. You guys are awesome. Anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed the video. If you guys give this a try, let me know in the comment section below. And guys, get my ebook, both of them. Get both the ebooks. Nutrition, training, the best, both worlds put them together. The final diet and the push-pull legs, get them right now. Until next time, guys, you know how it is. Iron sharpens iron, progressive overload your life. In the meantime, keep dream chasing. Peace.